Right. Welcome everyone to the Flux Dev Meeting. Today is March 30th. We have an action-packed agenda. Maybe I'll go first because mine are fairly quick, and maybe Stefan and others are going to turn up later so we can do the dev-related things in just a bit. So I would appreciate if some of you found the time. I know that Kingdon already commented on this on the website repository. There is pull request 845. So this is, I talked about this, I think the last time already. Basically, users have commented on this, but also the CNCF TechDoc folks let us know that we could improve the information architecture a little bit. And we had somebody from the Renovate team come in with, I found a very good proposal of structuring the docs. And what I put up there is basically just a proof of concept, just doing the very easy and simple things. There's obviously more we can do, but maybe let's agree on navigation and structural things first before we do anything else. So I'm not in a rush getting this in, but any piece of feedback will help. So that's just my shout out on that one. Yes, another piece is on Monday. I want to get out the monthly update. So the draft is also linked from the agenda. If you have anything you would like me to report, also, great contributions you've seen, or shout out to users or people who helped or whatever it might be, just plug a link in there or bullet point, and I'm happy to expand on this and write a bit more. Just wanting to make sure that I cover all the good work that has happened last month. And after that, I was wondering, so lately I've been working with Paulo on some security related blog posts about Flux, and then with Paulo and others around our Git integration. Do you have any things you would like me to report about next or write about? In general, like, the feedback has been great. So all the help you gave me turned into something really nice. Yeah.
I wonder if there's anything around like how to ease the way of new contributors, like anything that how can you do your first contribution to any of the repos, we have already some documentation around those lines, but I wonder if there's anything on a blog post formats that we could do to entice folks to help us, on any of the existing projects.
Yeah, maybe that's a great idea. Maybe just basically recap some of the contributor docs. I mean, we also put some work into them lately, making sure that all the install and test instructions for the controllers are up to date. So that could be one thing to go through that, and then maybe discuss like a couple of easy contributions that came in lately, just to explain to people how folks contributed and that it was not too hard to do. So maybe that could be one thing. Yeah, I like it. Super. Okay. KubeCon.
I had a quick, I don't know, like a doubt or something. It's not really a doubt. Like, so like, speaking of new contributors, like I'm still a college student, and I feel like college students, like basically undergrad students, are like a very good pool of contributors, because that's how they get into the cloud native world, and they get to learn coding in the real world as well. So like, I was curious, I noticed that we are part of CNCF here, we apply for graduation, but we don't participate in any of the mentorship programs like GSOC or LFX mentorship. Why is that?
Time, simply said.
Yeah, that makes sense because it does require mentoring. But I was maybe wondering if there are a few easy things that we could offload to some of the mentorship programs. It's a great way of first it's a great way of getting new contributors into the community, and second, it helps promote Flux as well, because the more contributors you have, the more PR you get, and like the benefits. Like, yeah. So I was wondering if maybe we shouldn't go for each, like LFX mentorship. I think it happens four times every year. So maybe we don't need to apply every term, but we could definitely, I think we could go for a couple of terms maybe.
Yeah, I haven't looked at what is the program called again? The one that you mentioned.
The LFX mentorship, Linux Foundation.
Right. So what we tried with Flux V1, Flux Legacy, was Hacktoberfest, which gave us mixed results. There were a lot of people who contributed something, but a lot of the PRs weren't really of great quality or of great use.
Yeah, I mean, Hacktoberfest is mainly spam. It's like, it's a joke, really.
Yeah, so that was a bit unfortunate. But I think it was a good exercise for us to go through all of the bugs and categorize some of them as easy targets. So I think that part was useful for us. Some of code usually is a bit more work, because you basically have like this big project you're proposing, you're writing it up, you have to maybe interview or review the list of students and everything else, have like weekly follow-up. So maybe we could take a look at the LXF mentorship and see if that would strike like a nicer balance. So maybe that's a thing to consider.
Yeah, I just thought, I mean, I was wondering why as a CNCF project we don't do that, because a lot of CNCF projects do that.
I think it would be great. I think it just needs a volunteer or two who are willing to also handle the communications with the Linux Foundation and with potential students. But yeah, maybe we can talk about this after the meeting, Sanskar, you and I, and then just have a look at the documentation and see how involved it's going to be. I think in general it would be great if we could do something like this.
Cool. Yeah, sure.
Okay, super. The next thing is KubeCon. So that's going to be in about, what is it, like 6 weeks or something. I think if you're going, I think it would be great if you could let me know, just so we know, because we have a couple of activities going on at KubeCon itself. So there's going to be the booth, there's going to be, which Vanessa and I are organizing. There is the virtual project office hours, which Paolo just agreed to lead. So, but the nice thing is that we can have. Paolo had no idea what he would get himself into. No, I think it's going to be fine. It's 45 minutes, and we can have like multiple panelists, and I also intend to let people know in the monthly update, so that we have like a good audience who can ask a bunch of questions and learn more about what we've been doing lately. So I think that should be fine. We also have an on-the-ground project meeting. So that would mean that people at KubeCon get together if they're interested in Flux and can meet somewhere there. That still needs to be organized. So for that, I would need to have like 1 or 2 people who are there. The bug squash, I haven't heard anything back on that yet. That would also be another initiative to get contributors involved again. As soon as I know more, Keenan, I'll let you know. And yeah, So yeah, be prepared that I'll be reaching out to you and ask for some help with some of the things. It's already quite a bit of work, but maybe also a good opportunity for us to get more people attracted again. And that was all on my end. Who wants to lead the next bit of discussion, the current dev focus, blockers, or things where you need help? Should we go through the new project board, or how do you want to do it?
Yeah, well, I think we can go through the board now and actually just have a quick discussion, especially around what we're aiming for the next release, just to make sure that it's kind of up to date. Do you want to share your screen? Should I share my screen?
Please do. It looks like my Zoom is a bit unhappy right now. I don't know what it does, but
Let me see. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
Cool. All right, let me see if I can increase this. Yeah, so I just went through quite, some of the issues that we have around. There were a few things that were on point 29 that we probably didn't really want to focus for the next one. So I kind of moved them around a bit. So just wanted to kind of check if there's anything else you guys have in mind for us to focus on the next version, just to kind of make sure that this is up to date. And then the next point is around the GA board, which we don't have much there because there's still quite a few things to be tagged. I'll come to that in a second. But it is to as well have that kind of visibility so we can see, all the things that are targeted before GA. So anyone has any kind of comments, anything that issues or PRs that we should be putting on against the v.29, or any new issues we should create towards that?
Why it's 29?
Point 29. So for the Flux CLI?
Yeah, why is not 28x?
You mean like for the next minors?
Yeah, I mean, source controller getting stuck, if we fix that bug, should go into a patch release, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing is, if we create one for each patch, that means that it would be a lot more kind of admin work for us to kind of manage all that. So the focus is more like high level. So things that are patch releases, they are a bit more.
No, I was saying 28.x. Which
Just
means
okay, I see what I mean. Yeah,
we
we
are
can.
working on this for any patch release. Make sense?
Yes. So let me just create. I have to figure out where to create that. I think it's here, but yeah, I'll do that offline.
Yeah.
I'll add that offline. So we have that. And instead of, I wonder if we put one per minor or if we just do like next patch release. So it's a lot easier for us to kind of keep the board up and running. So that is always at the top, if you know what I mean.
Yep, that will work as well. So we don't have to create every time, right?
Exactly, yeah. Because otherwise we'll have like thousands of, well, not thousands now, but hundreds for sure of minors as we go. Cool, I'll do that. For the next, release, so, next minor release, is there anything big that you guys thinking we should be tracking against v.29?
Yeah, I'm guessing 29 should come with all the controllers refactored.
We can track that. I think we have some of those issues that are not there. So what I'll do is I'll put it here. Oh, this is annoying. Right, that surely should be a bug. So I'll put those things there. And again, these things are just tracking. If we have to release 29 for whatever reason before, we can always do that. And then just push things that and we're not on that cut towards the following release.
Also, Git overall improvements should go there, but not Helm provenience. So Helm provenience, this is a new feature we are going to push it after GA.
All right. Yeah, I wonder if it's worth just breaking it down, because these would be a lot of changes, especially if we're talking about major review of all the controllers plus all those changes on the Git, because Git in itself, I don't know if you saw the breakdown here, it is quite a humongous amount of work. Quite a few things might be fixed with managed transport, but there are a few things that wouldn't, and then there's like documentation and so on. So just wondering if that, on top of rewriting all the controllers and do all that in a single release, that might be quite risky. But again, yeah, we can track against that and then see how we go.
Hopefully, the bugs there will be resolved without having to necessarily refactor the Git and move it to the Git package, right?
Well, from what I've been seeing, at least on my setup, which is really unstable when it comes down to network, the managed transport improved drastically the reliability on my environment. Before I would have errors at least once every 5 minutes. Now I don't get errors for days. So, but again, there is still some issues with some users, and we need to make sure that that supports all the current libgit2 scenarios as well. So, yeah, but hopefully we'll get to the bottom of most of those issues.
Yeah, it's kind of, it is a major improvement. At least now you can clone big repos, so repos over 100 megabytes of Git history were broke after the libgit2 update. So before you could clone the Node.js repo, right now it's impossible to do it, no matter what timeout you set.
And so, that just on the normal libgit2 without the managed transport, right?
Yeah, so I had a cluster that worked it wasn't upgraded for a long time. Node.js was cloned. It took around 5 to 7 minutes. I upgraded the cluster, then even setting 20 minutes timeout, it would never work, like with the latest libgit2. Then I switched to the experimental transport, and which is very odd. Also, the cloning time went down. So previously with libgit2, I don't know, 1.10 or something, what was before, it took around between 5 and 7 minutes. Now it takes between 3 and 5 minutes with the managed transport, with the experimental transport. Without the experimental transport, it doesn't work at all. It crashes all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also seen that the experimental transport does not handle panics and the whole controller crashes.
Doesn't support what, sorry?
It doesn't do panic recovery. So it crashes the whole controller.
Yeah, I think there are 2 or 3 scenarios that are not really dealing with that really well. I'm having a look on that today and make sure that we on top of that.
Yeah, if Git to go throws panics, we have to do a recovery. It's not acceptable for a controller to panic, right?
Yeah.
Because you can have 2 repos with libgit2 and 1,000 repos with GoGit. There is no reason why a single repo should crash the whole thing, not to mention multi-tenancy and so forth, right?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
If Git2Go has panics in their source code, then we should definitely do recovery in our controller. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll have a look on that. It's kind of hard to kind of be 100% sure that all the dependencies don't have similar things, but on Git2Go for sure, we need to handle that. One thing that was quite interesting, at least on my test, so I have a lot of concurrency requests on the same and different repos as well, just to make sure that concurrency doesn't have issues, especially with the cache connections. And one thing that I've noticed is at scale, when you have loads of those, the overall resources are less consumed, especially on, I don't remember now if it was source controller or the image automation controller, but basically, because you're not doing the handshake at every single time against an SSH server, it tends to consume less CPU and so on. So that is definitely some positive, things around the line. But I'm not 100% sure in terms of the test coverage for the managed transport. So I want to kind of get a few more things resolved and then make sure that we focus as well on the test coverage to confirm that it's at least the same level or beyond the known managed transport. Cool. Anything else around that subject? All right. I think we covered the points around, points around GA. I think we can go back to that once, there are more things on the board. If you see any issue, any PR or anything, or you want to create one and make sure that it's here, you just need to add the milestone GA. It doesn't matter which repo it is, and then you have to add the issue into any of those boards, and it will automatically come here. And to add again, we just need to put the URL here, and it will just appear there. Yeah.
Can you maybe go to the GA roadmap issue, the 2592?
Oh yeah, this one.
Yeah, because it has a long list of things, and one thing, I can help with this, but I don't think I can write all of the docs. I was just wondering if there was more information around documentation improvements. What's that going to mean, and what kind of developer guides are
Actually,
I planned? So I think it would be good to file oh yeah, okay, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, that's actually an extra
no worries. I think it would be good to just file this as issues on Flux website, and then I can do that. I can just copy it over from the roadmap doc.
Yeah, I was going to do that, and then I realized that I can't do that through here because I don't have right access. But yes, I completely agree. Ideally, we would have those, and then we break them down into, each one's scope. So
links from there. Yeah,
exactly. And
I'm happy to do the docs ones. I'll take care of that.
Cool. Yeah, and to be honest, some of these already have other issues. So I think around standardized events and status conditions, I'm still going to kind of link them into here, so they're interlinked. One thing that I'm quite keen as well is to make sure that we're tagging things that are really good for first time contributions, because I've been noticing that some folks are picking up on those and kind of going through them. So that might help us a lot.
Sweet, yeah. Maybe we could also have something for the docs related pieces that new contributors can sort of give us feedback. So like what kind of information they would require to get started. So maybe I'll blog about this as well.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, that for that blog post that we just talked about. Yeah, that's good. Cool. I think that is it for those 2 points. So I think the next one is Kingdom on the Flux 1.25. I will stop sharing my screen now.
Yeah. I've been working on the Flux v1 repo to figure out what was the issue upgrading the Circle CI image from Ubuntu 16.04 to current one. And I figured that out. So the builds are passing again now. I've gone through and done all the upgrades suggested by RenovateBot. -1, well, -2 actually, we're not upgrading the Kubernetes client past 1.21, as that would break some things for folks who are using earlier versions of Kubernetes that don't necessarily have the v1 CRD in their manifests. There are still a few CVEs and binaries that I cannot resolve. One in particular, the customized binary, because we're stuck on a particular version for backwards compatibility reasons. That right around the time that customized 4 came in. So I'm not sure how to resolve that exactly, but the SOPS one is actually on the latest release, and there's a CVE in the binary, so reported by Trivia at least. So maybe I can submit something upstream or try to build it myself, but I don't think we want to put a binary that we built ourselves. I would just do that to see if it can resolve the CVE or not. So
Yeah, we need to do it upstream. Don't kinship with our own binaries.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that would have been a good idea. But that's the status update for Flux v1, and hopefully we'll cut a tag later this week and maybe Helm operator soon after.
Cool. Yeah, just a quick thing on the customize. If that is out of support, we could always try to, talk with them upstream and see if we can backport the fix. But ideally, we should stop doing that if it's enough live versions. Yeah, that's.
Sorry, what CV was it?
I don't have it right here, but the customized version is old, and it's not even the latest 3. They started having breaking changes before the last version in the 3 series, so we're stuck on a particular version because users reported that newer versions were breaking things. So it's not like we just need another release in the 3 series. We need a release based on a particular old release.
On that point, I think it might make sense for us at some point define our approach to end-of-life dependencies, because if we're not developing any new features there, we will be stuck on Kubernetes versions and all the dependencies around there. So we might have to do like an official communication on that.
Yeah, just a side note about this, everyone who's brought up customize in Flux v1 to me, I have cautioned them first and foremost that it violates a security boundary that we resolved in Flux v2. And you don't really want these things happening next to your cluster admin credentials in any case. So whatever we do to patch the customized binary is going to pale in comparison to that major issue.
Flux 1 by default allows remote code execution. So customize or not has no meaning here. You can place any bash script, any binary in your Git repo, and then you can tell Flux to the Flux YAML or however it was called to execute it from bash, right? And that runs in a container, which is root on the node, and bind it to cluster admin. So there is no point in discussing security around Flux One. There is no such thing.
Yeah.
So
From a
about
support perspective,
customize, there is no
yeah.
CV in customize. Customize has not reported any kind of CV. So whatever 3V says there, it must be some dependency to Golang text or PGP or something that Customize probably doesn't even use it. So we can just ignore all this. So if 3V finds something in a binary that we depend on, and you look at the Customize or SOPs Git repo in the security section, if they don't have there a CV, then we don't care about it. Right? Anyway, Flux One updates are on are more of a courtesy now. So let's do what we can do. So like instead of breaking, I'm guessing whoever didn't upgrade to Flux version 2 is stuck on Flux version 1, a very old version, so they will not upgrade anymore. Anyway, to new Flux V1 releases. So let's wait for users to say, hey, I have a CV and in the Flux V1 latest image, and then we can figure it out. But if no one reports anything, I'm guessing that those Flux V1 instances that are still running up there are very, very old, and no one keeps them up to date.
There are a few people that have reported they actually were not able to upgrade between 1.21 and 1.24 because of some kind of regression that they get a context timeout that they didn't get before. And I have not really gone to great lengths to figure out exactly what's wrong. I've just mostly encouraged these people to upgrade to Flux v2. And as far as the customized feature, I'm considering it not really something to support at all because it's not continued in Flux v2. So if people are using it, the only support I can offer is words of encouragement to migrate to a better approach and documentation on how to do that. That's been my approach to supporting the Flux v1 fringe people who are using those weird features so far.
Where is that issue? Because in Flux, so in the Flux repo, I see no issue created this year.
Someone posted on Slack a couple days ago, and I didn't get a reply when I asked them for more information.
Okay, ask them please to
follow it up. Yeah.
To open issues on GitHub. Without an issue on GitHub, we shouldn't do anything because we need proof that people are using V1 and what versions and so on. Because if you look here at issues, it seems like no one is using V1 anymore. Because there is no bug, no timeout, no report, no nothing. So please don't act on what's written on Slack. Ask them to open issues. So at least we have some proof that, okay, we still have users which keep Flux V1 up to date. And I'm really, really curious why they are doing this instead of upgrading. So tracking this down in GitHub is the best way.
Okay, I have the thread. I'll follow up with that user.
Cool. I have another item that which is empowering the triage role. So basically, one of the community roles were actually, the project member role gives users responsibilities and privileges around being able to do triage, and we explicitly say on all Flux GitHub or repos. And that might not be completely true, especially when it comes down like being able to do simple things like signing, setting label, and so on. So one of the things that suggesting, I had a quick chat with he did this morning, is around enabling some bots to allow those folks to do that. So if you are, a member of the org, you can actually assign labels, milestones, and assign, to themselves or any other contributor a given issue or PR. And also one suggestion from me was to sync the labels across repos, so we can pretty much kind of define which ones we want across the board, and then we just do that. And just wanted to kind of float the idea and see if there's anything specifically around this that anyone has any concern, any doubts, or anything that we should also consider as part of that.
I'm not sure I understand. So if you are part of the triage team, you cannot label things? Or?
Yeah, so for example, this whole GA roadmap is a great example of that. I have no ability to label or to set a given milestone to any of the repos I don't have right access to, right? Which means every time that I need to do any of that, I have to ask someone, give them a list of things like, oh, can you please label this? Can you please milestone this? And if I'm having that issue, I would assume that all the users, all the contributors would have the same kind of problem. So if we automate that process, then we don't need to give right access to actually have the privilege of labeling and triaging overall items.
It sounds like you don't actually have the triage role, because you should be able to label, rename, and close issues
Yes.
for any repo that you have that role.
Maybe we didn't add all repos to the triage team. Which repo?
So Flux Dev is one of those. Package is another one. Well, actually, let me just check the package.
Oh yeah, because it's only read. Yeah, I'll fix them right now. One second. Yes, so it's not enough to add the repo to a team. You also have to select triage for each repo. So yeah, package and libgit2 didn't have those. Now I've added them, so anyone in this team should be able to do it.
Yeah, I'm just adding comments that you fixed this during the meeting, and there was an issue with the triage row. On the syncing of labels, do you guys see any benefit on that, kind of getting that across the repos?
Yeah,
have
labels, yes.
some
So
set of,
we added the labels in the organization, but for example, image automation controller and reflector controller were moved from Michael's account because he started on his own account, development. Then when you move a repo to an organization, it doesn't import the labels. It does that only if you create a new repo directly in the organization. So for automation controller and reflector controller, we need some script that wipes the current labels and imports all the labels from the org. Or from another repo like Flux2, for example, which has all the right labels and so on.
All right, so for those specific repos, we will have to manually do that then.
Yeah. Must be some script somewhere. I mean, we are definitely not the first project who runs
That kind of problem, yeah.
There's a Terraform provider for GitHub labels. We could use Terraform controller to do it.
Oh, to be honest, Terraform is amazing when you do the whole end-to-end with it, like for permissions and all. I've done quite a bit of that in the past, but when you have something already running and you're amending an existing GitHub, it can be a bit problematic, I would say. but we can give it a try.
Beaver sells something like this. And one of the problems is that you then should stop modifying anything through the UI, because otherwise your plan will get stuck. I think my proposal was much simpler, which was based on some Node.js package thing, which has a GitHub action attached to it, which you can give a YAML file with labels and their colors and anything, and probably also works with entures, and then you can just copy them to the right configuration per repository, which is just a plain YAML thing, which we can run in an action to, I don't know, synchronize every time there's a commit to the directory it's stored in or something.
Yeah, the issue with this is that then we have to give full organization admin rights to some automation that sits in a repo. I mean, we have to generate a token that has full access to everything FluxCD.
Yeah, it would be great if GitHub Actions had some kind of setting where you could manually trigger a workflow action to run on your personal credentials, temporary credentials or something, which would kind of make it semi-automation based, but without providing like full-blown access anytime something runs it. But
it works. So
you can do that?
So when you run a GitHub action manually and you don't set up a token, you use the default token, that token is linked to your identity. So for example, if you create a GitHub action that does a commit and you run that action manually, the commit will be under your name. No matter what you set on the username or whatever, GitHub will show you GitHub actions and Stefan made this commit. And Stefan is because they take the user that runs it, and it runs under that user. Or at least that's what I figured out while I was working on the manual releases and so on. So yeah, maybe we should try that YAML stuff. It's way better than Terraform. I don't want to deal with Terraform at all.
Cool. All right. I'll have a look on that. I'll probably create an issue somewhere as well to track it. Although I think there's a similar issue already. Cool. Yeah, I think that is it on that point. Is there any other items in the agenda?
I would like to add an item around OCI RFCs and explain a little bit now what's going on. So there is an RFC opened by Sule with a proposal to add 2 new API kinds to the source controller source API. OCI registry and OCI artifact. I've tried to contribute to this RFC, then I've decided to create alternative RFCs and not go on this route and not add 2 API types source controller. Today I've created an RFC especially for adding OCI support to Helm in Flux. I'm going to paste here the link. And the proposal is very different from what Sule did there. My proposal is that we reuse the Helm repository kind that we have today, add the optional type field. When the type field is set to OCI, then it will act as a object that refers to a secret, and that secret is a Docker config JSON file, so we can authenticate to container registries, which means Flux users, when they want to switch from an existing Helm repository to a container registry, all they need to do is change the type and the URL. That's about it. So it's very, let's say, easy for users to migrate from one solution to another with Flux. And I'm going to work on a second RFC for plain YAMLs, which will follow my old proposal from 1.5 years ago around introducing an OCI repository kind that can be used as a drop-in replacement for Git repository or bucket in customized sources. So in the same way with a bucket, you say, hey, I want to pull this bucket down and then apply a directory. In the same way you do with Git, I want to apply the same thing, the same workflow, the same API design to OCI for plain YAMLs, where you say, hey, I have this image here, maybe I'm giving it a semver for tags, or I hard code the tag or a SHA. Then you tell, I want to apply some directory from within the OCI artifact. So yeah, those are my updates on OCI things.
On that point, do you think this should be tracked against GA, or this is a post-GA feature?
Given the other RFCs, it could take months, many months before we can even get some feedback from people. So we'll see if the things improve here. I mean, if we get all the Flux maintainers on board with this, people are excited about it. They properly review the RFC and approve it, we can consider it then. Maybe we only want to implement Helm, whatever, because I looked it up and it's the most requested feature in Flux ever. In Flux 2, like no other thing was as requested as this one. So I'm not sure. What do you think, Hide?
Can you repeat what I should have thought about? Because
if we should implement OCI before GA.
yes, I think it would be wise. I think with the new RFC proposal and it now being properly detached from the OCI artifact proposal, basically, it should be safe for introduction to GA.
Okay. Yeah, we just added an optional field, so it's not, doesn't break anything. It's nothing opt-in, and it's something that people wanted once. So we'll see.
Okay. I'll tag that then on the milestone GA, and we see how it goes. But at least we're tracking that against GA.
Okay. It's 2597.
Any more feedback or questions about this? Okay. Any other agenda items or things where you're blocked on or need help or anything else? Shout outs. Cool. In that case, we're done. Thanks a lot, everyone, and see you next week.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Everyone.